Nothing screams SEC more than Texas and Oklahoma. Can Ole Miss make a statement against LSU? It is time to get the SEC squad together.
You're talking ball with the SEC squad. From Alabama to Tennessee, from Georgia to Oklahoma, from Auburn to Texas, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming SEC weekend. It's the SEC squad, and we have a seat for you. Hurt feelings and thin skin are prohibited. Squad up. You're part of the SEC squad.
Oh, what is happening, everybody? Welcome into the SEC squad. This is our SEC squad show. We do this weekly. Sit back, grab your favorite beverage, and join us as we get ready for another wild week across the SEC. And my goodness, was it a wild week last week? We will get into that before we get into previewing this week. But welcome in. I'm Chris Gordy, host of Locked On SEC. Joining us tonight, we've got John Miller, host of Locked On Mizzou, Jonathan Davis, host of Locked On Longhorns, Jay Smith, host of Locked On Sooners, and Corey Burton, host of Locked On Vandy. And guys, before we get to the Red River rivalry game happening this weekend, which is now, it's going to be weird watching that game with the SEC logo all over the field, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the biggest upset in recent SEC history. The Vanderbilt Commodores not only beat Alabama, beat number one Alabama. Corey, what in the world, man? What got into Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt Commodores?
The same thing that's gotten into them all year long. I mean, what they did was masterful as far as their game plan. They wanted to hold the ball, and they did. They held it for 42 minutes of game time. Defensively, they were disruptive with Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams, and they just executed, and they were – Pavia was – he was Diego football. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, and it wasn't just Vandy going, or, Alabama going down. It was number 4 Tennessee going down. It was top 10 Mizzou going down to A&M in like dominating fashion. Yeah, John Miller, what the hell happened to Mizzou?
I wish I knew. The Tigers simply didn't show up. They had some horrible penalties. Honestly, nothing went right for the Tigers. Everything went wrong, and I don't have any bright spots for you. I wish I had some magical solution here. The Tigers just got to be better moving forward.
Jonathan, Jay, Oklahoma and Texas, y'all had a bye week. Y'all got to just sit back and enjoy the insanity, but this is what makes the SEC tough, man. Anybody can beat anybody on any given day. What'd y'all think?
Yeah, I think, when you look at it, I was talking about Alabama being the number one team in the country. When I was previewing that game, I was like, okay, Alabama had the big win over Georgia. They're not going to come down and have a letdown next week. I heard Kalen DeBoer was putting the little rat traps around the building. I'm like, they're going to be ready. They're going to come out and kind of smack, Vanderbilt, right, to show everybody that they're not going to have a letdown. And the exact opposite thing happened. And maybe this is the first time where you're seeing the big difference between Nick Saban and Kalen DeBoer, because I just can't help but feel that Nick Saban would have had them boys out there ready to, beat Vandy by 50, after beating Georgia. Like, he would have motivated them harder to play against Vandy than they did against Georgia. And to come out there and have the letdown that they did, losing to Vandy for the first time in 40 years, just absolutely unacceptable loss. I don't care how good Vandy is playing this year. Shout out to Corey and what he's doing on Locked On Vandy. That's just an absolutely unexplainable loss. Really bad for the Alabama Crimson Tide after what they did to Georgia last Saturday night.
Well, yeah, the emotion. Sorry, Jay. The emotional letdown or the emotional hangover, I thought, played a factor in that too. And what Georgia did to them in the second half, I think, really kind of affected them, because I think Georgia unlocked something that exposed a little bit of a weakness there. And Kalen DeBoer, I don't know if he knows how to handle adversity, Jay.
I mean, honestly, I was the complete opposite of Jonathan on the show on Bleacher Report when we did our roundtable. I said that this was the perfect letdown spot for Alabama. And the reason is exactly what you said, Corey. That second half of that Georgia game, Alabama looked gassed, and their defense looked like it was easily gashed by them, right? It was not the Saban Estique defense that we're used to. It did not look like they were locked in, and it looked like they were at a point playing with their food because they thought they were superior. And so as soon as this Vanderbilt game was going, I was like, man, I think Vanderbilt's going to give them a problem. At least Vanderbilt will guaranteed cover this spread. And being the fact that Vanderbilt had the ball for 42 minutes compared to 17, that was game changer. They just kept them gassed, kept them exhausted, won the game.
And how about this?
I'm just going to say this really quickly. is, yeah, Alabama beat Georgia, but they essentially held on at the end, right? You know what I mean? Like Georgia
exactly. That's what it does.
You know what I'm saying? And so, like you said, that game carried over into Vandy, and then Vandy was able to do what they do, man. But, that's the storyline. That's not what Alabama didn't do. It's what Vandy did, so shout out to them, and shout out to the goalpost that's in the river.
Yeah, I heard somebody said they were like, well, Vandy, Bama was just trying to get the ball back there at the end, and they couldn't get it. I'm like, Vandy was going down to score more points if that game is 10 more minutes. Like they were not going to stop scoring.
Exactly.
So, I mean, Pavia was making chunk play after chunk play after chunk play. They gave up because, hey, Alabama has no more timeouts, so we could just kneel on it.
Exactly.
But they were scoring on that drive, Chris. You're exactly right.
And by the way, the most telling stat, guys, over the last 6 quarters of football, so the 4 against Vandy and the last 2 against Georgia, Alabama has given up 67 points to their opponent over the last 6 quarters of football. That is
Saban is cringing.
unheard of.
Well,
so
Saban probably shouldn't have made that statement that the easiest place to play is Vanderbilt. He probably shouldn't have said that. And I'm so glad. I am so glad you all played that on the Jumbotron after the game. Shout out to y'all for that, even though it's under construction.
From experience, you know what I'm saying? You can't blame him for speaking from experience. Caleb DeBoer.
Fair. I mean, statistically, it's funny because
Nick Saban makes it an easy place to play.
Right. When Saban was there, he'd given up only 13 points in 4 games total, and DeBoer gave up 13 points in the first quarter. So that tells you, of course, the difference between the two. Now, I got to ask this question real quick, though. Did y'all tell Kalen DeBoer about what it's like in the SEC? Did he get the same message that Oklahoma and Texas got? Did he get the lecturing of it's gonna be tough every week and it means more? Did anybody say it to him? Because it did not feel like it in that game.
It didn't, and I don't think they did because he's still coaching like he's at Washington. He's like, oh yeah, we got our big game out of the way. We're good. We got Vandy. This will be piece of cake. Nope.
And just a quick tip for Kalen DeBoer. The key, it's either a polo, a sweater, a jacket. You can't wear a dry fit T-shirt like you're going to the 24-hour fitness down the road when you're a head coach of a program. You can't do that.
No, you got
Alabama. You can't.
No, quarter zip is the way to go.
Yeah,
quarter zip is the way to go in my mind. You can't fail with a quarter zip with a simple logo, and you're good to go, man.
Jonathan, what would you wear?
Oh man, if I was a head coach, I'd probably be dressed down. I can't lie. I'd probably be in the full suit out there, like Nick Saban, hot as hell. You know what I'm saying? But I'd be clean. You know what I'm saying? I'd be clean. I couldn't do just the polo. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gotta
bring back the Bear Bryant hat. I think it's time.
Yeah, I'm rocking sweater vests the entire time, even in the middle of August in Texas. I'm going to rock a sweater vest with a shirt underneath it, maybe a polo, maybe a long sleeve, but I'm pulling the old sweater vest out on everybody.
I'm going summertime. I'm going short sleeve quarter zip with the polo underneath, and then a visor, or in the wintertime, I'm going hat with a long sleeve quarter zip.
I might be in the blue tent every TV timeout because it's so hot.
Yeah,
I'd go polo, but I'd be the first.
Coach Davis is in the tent now.
I would wear jeans. I'd be the first coach ever to wear jeans on the sideline.
So you're gonna be the next Kalen DeBoer, is what you're telling us? You're gonna be like him?
Well, no, he's dressed like he's going to the YMCA to play a pickup game after.
He's like, you know what? If it works for Belichick, it's gonna work for me.
Yeah.
Hey, the cutoff hoodie. There we go, baby. Let's ride.
Yeah, cut off the sleeves with the hoodie.
Are we gonna let Tennessee off the hook, Gordy? Like, are we so focused on Bama? We're gonna let Tennessee off the hook?
Yeah, we didn't touch on them. I mean, how about they remind me a little bit of Ole Miss, right? You're beating up on all these teams early in the season and putting up 60 and 70 points, but when you get into the conference play, suddenly the offense bogged down a little bit at Oklahoma, but they were able to get the win. But man, offense really bogged down there in Fayetteville, and oof. Look, I mean, who's elite? Who's elite in the SEC now outside of Texas?
I tried to tell people about that Tennessee team, man. And so many people were saying, oh, well, they took their foot off the gas. They could have just blown you guys out even more. I was like, no. Heupel saw that there was going to be a chance his quarterback was going to get hurt. He had to find a way to just get the ball out of his hands on a regular basis. And there was some suspectness in the way that offense was ran. Look, I love Nico Iamaleava. I think he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks out there in time. I'm glad we saw him early. But the thing is, you can tell that Josh Heupel is the quarterback of that team. That man is guiding him where to go with the ball. Arkansas made it difficult on him the entire time. You could tell he didn't know where to go. He looked confused. Heck, he ran the ball out of bounds with no time on the clock. That is not something you do as I don't care how old you are. You should know that at least give your guys a chance. Throw the ball in the air somewhere.
Yep.
Something.
This is, maybe quarterbacks are looking at their box scores too much these days. He was like, I can't throw a pick right here.
That's fair point.
Tennessee will just lose.
NIL, baby.
Pick right here.
Who was
signed by the collective here? If I throw
was it Sam Darnold that said he was seeing ghosts? Like,
yes,
yeah.
With Nico, like he got hit early, and then he was just like hesitant. Oh my God, what am I? And it's like, dude, there's nobody around you. Just you're fine, settle. But he never settled in.
He was very skittish, and the offense was very skittish. And I thought Arkansas had a really good game plan defensively against him. They moved their looks a little bit post snap. They presented a different look than they did pre snap, just totally muddying up what he his pre snap notions. And it was great, man. I enjoyed seeing it. And then their offense, of course, they performed well. Taylor,
the funniest part of the weekend is Texas fans coming out and saying, "Oh, look, our schedule is tough because Arkansas and Vandy had big wins."
Kentucky's good.
That's the crazy part, guys. Is you go look at the remaining schedule for whoever your SEC team is, you erase all those W's you penciled in because everybody's good. Everybody's good. Kirby Smart said it. Like this is a year where the parity in the SEC, there's no bottom feeder and there's no elite team. Anybody can beat anybody. And on that note, fellas, we're going to dive deeper into the Texas OU matchup, the Red River rivalry game.
Welcome
coming up next.
The SEC.
On the Squad.
SEC.
More with the Squad here in just a second, but want to remind you guys today's episode is presented by our friends over at the Game Time app. And Game Time, they've got a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks is going to filter out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. If you haven't tried out Game Time yet, please check them out. It's an incredible app. I've used it multiple times for college football games, for NFL games. You can even use it for concerts, whatever you want. Game Time has got it, and their Game Time Picks, the curation process makes it easier to save on sporting events, concerts, comedy, theater, whatever it is. Of course, the seat views is a great option. You get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. And of course, the all-in pricing feature. I like that one because it shows you your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. Go take the guesswork out of buying tickets with the Game Time app. Download Game Time today, create an account, use our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem our code LOCKEDONCollege, get $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It is game time. All right, roll along here on the SEC Squad. And gentlemen, we got to get into the, I would call it the SEC game of the week. That spread has been sitting at about 2 touchdowns, but who knows? Somebody might be able to pull off another upset this week. But let's get into it. Is OU Texas week. These two teams hate each other. I remember Sam Acho called this game a rivalry on par with the Iron Bowl and Ohio State, Michigan. So, Jonathan, let's start with you. Give me the Texas perspective. This is a rivalry that Oklahoma has largely dominated, 11-4 in the last 15 matchups. Oklahoma is. So Texas, you say you're elite, you're the number one team in the country. Go act like it.
Yeah, we can't look in the rearview mirror for this one, Gordy. I think Texas and Oklahoma are just two largely different programs than they were, for all those matchups. But, when I'm looking at it, obviously one of the best rivalries in the game, one of the most unique experiences, split at the 50-yard line, with the crimson and the burnt orange. And it's going to be a great environment on Saturday. But when you look at the matchup on the field, the two football teams, just tell me, what does Oklahoma do better than the University of Texas? Like you said, the spread is, 14 and a half, whatever it's going to be at kickoff. You can talk about anything can happen in the rivalry game, throw out the roster, throw out the records, all of that. But at some point, we have to talk logic, right? We can't talk Sooner Magic, whatever the hell they call it. We have to talk logic, right? And Texas is just better at almost every position than Oklahoma. Now, of course, you still have to go out there and play football for 60 minutes. I think the biggest thing last year was Oklahoma had a quarterback that could outplay Quinn Ewers, right? And Dylan Gabriel had the game of his life. Michael Hawkins, look, he's cool, right? But he ain't Michael Vick. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way the Sooner fans are talking about him. Like, he could just come out and have a Michael Vick type performance on Saturday. And so, I think what we're going to see on Saturday is going to be a lot closer to 2022 than 2023. And I'm not saying that, Texas is going to win 49-0. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. But last year you had 2 go-ahead drives, 2 Titans battling it out, 2 go-ahead drives in the last couple of minutes. There will not be a go-ahead drive in the fourth quarter because Texas will have this wrapped up by the time the fourth quarter comes.
Jay?
I think it's fascinating that the cockiness of Texas. But hey, y'all knew that this was coming with Texas when they came into the conference, right? They claimed that they're even the original UT when in all actuality it's Tennessee. But I digress. This rivalry is one of those games that you cannot throw logic in there, right? The last time that, put it this way. Texas and Oklahoma playing each other ranked. This is the 44th time. No other rivalry can say that they've had this many. I think Michigan's probably the closest when it comes to teams being ranked highly when they faced each other. This is one of those games where you got to throw conventional logic out, right? When Oklahoma was 11-1 and went and played in the college football playoff, they lost one game in that one season. That was to Charlie Strong's 5-7 Texas Longhorns. That stuff happens a little too often. We can't be ridiculous. But you're right, Chris. Recent history, we've owned it. If you go back to 1960 is when Texas actually starts to be winning over Oklahoma. And so, yeah, we could throw history out of there because we've got new coaches, new regimes. I mean, Sarkisian's 1-2 against Oklahoma since he's been there. But for us, the most important thing is Brent Venables is building a defense like he had at Clemson. And at Clemson, his defense is what helped them propel to 2 national championships. He's played in 8 total. He understands what needs to be done to not only win games, but win against SEC teams, because those natties he got at Clemson were against the SEC. So for us, the most important thing is our defense is going to have to continue to do what they're doing, very much bend, don't break. But the other part is, we're talking about Michael Hawkins as a freshman, sure, but ain't nobody seen him really get the turn up yet. We've 5 wide receivers down. That's why you haven't really seen much out of Michael Hawkins yet. But now that they had a bye week, time to start strategizing. They're going to show up with something that Texas ain't going to be prepared for. I'll put it this way. When Texas in 2009, they won the game 16-13. That was when Texas was number 2. Oklahoma was not even ranked due to injuries in that game. We lost so many offensive linemen that Trent Williams, y'all know Trent Williams, big lineman for San Francisco, he played center in the bowl game because we lost so many players that season. That was when Sam Bradford went down to BYU. The game still ended up being 16-13. And so for me, I think Oklahoma definitely covers the spread. They may eke out a win, 21-20, something close, but it's going to require a lot of perfection and forced turnovers, something which I think they can do to Texas.
Boy, just oozing with confidence in that score prediction.
That's all I heard was Sooner Magic, right? We're hoping for that Sooner Magic on Saturday.
Hey, well, we've seen it like 5-6 times the last 5-6 years against Texas. So I mean, I can't pretend like it don't exist.
Yeah, there's a psychological aspect of this game that's different than other games to me. When I watch it, it's like in recent history, it seems like Oklahoma is usually the calmer side, and Texas has been like
Texas
pressing a little bit. I mean, even though Texas has got the far superior roster this year, I'm interested to see how it plays out as an SEC game, because y'all have kind of gone through a little bit of a gauntlet of SEC games now, and you're a little bit more battered than you were in years past being in the Big 12. No offense to the Big 12. But
yeah, there needs to be more swear words thrown around. I mean, if you really want to be this to be an SEC game, there's got to be a little bit more vulgarity.
Yeah, so we got
point.
Someone just call my name.
Brandon Olson and Spencer McLaughlin joining the squad here, and
we needed a Gator to come in and swear a little bit.
John, Brandon,
can I just point something out here?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, we've talked about Oklahoma and Texas here for a few minutes now. Who's starting a quarterback for Texas? Did I miss that?
It sounds like
Quinn is back.
Is it going to be Quinn? Okay, I just thought that was kind of interesting. It's almost like, no offense to you guys, I was just saying it's interesting that that's not even really a talking point. Like, Arch, Quinn, who cares?
Well, to your point,
that was
John,
interesting.
Quinn has not played a football game in about a month. I've been saying this all week. What if he's rusty? And keep in mind, Quinn Ewers threw not 1 but 2 interceptions early in that game last year that really helped Oklahoma get some momentum. So
yeah, Chris, and you make a good point for a guy who's playing his first season of college football. I mean, he might not remember what a defense looks like this week against Oklahoma. It's the best defense.
Spencer, you're rusty. You get rusty sitting out for a while.
Sure.
I know this was a completely different situation, right? But, he missed about a month before the 2022 game when they won 49-0 as well. So don't forget that.
I mean, that was a game that we didn't play with an actual quarterback,
so I totally understand why he would do that.
There's precedent, Jay. There's precedent.
Yeah, the only trend I'm hearing is Quinn Ewers misses games every year. Come on, dude.
Every single year. Now, the other thing for us, too, is the fact that he's got an abdomen problem. That's where the injury is. I mean, you use your abdomen for everything. Breathing, walking, thinking. So if he gets hit a couple of times by our defensive line, which our defensive line is looking pretty good this year. If we go out there and R. Mason Thomas hits him one good time in the chest,
I'm going to need you to DM me after this how to think with my abdomen, right?
I got you. I got you.
What do you guys do in Oklahoma that you think with your abdomen?
How does one do that, Jay? Explain.
Just say we made it an anatomy.
We got to sign in your upcoming.
If your core is not engaged, you're not trying.
Hey, if you're looking around and you're thinking and sitting in a spot, you don't clench up your stomach whenever you're nervous. You don't clench your body up whenever you're. Huh?
Only Sooner fans on
Saturday. Like that. Is Michael Myers after you?
Yes.
The crazy part is
hey, it's tornado season here, baby. What are you talking about? I'm always got my head on the swivel.
If Arch played this week too, I mean, I still think like Texas's chances. So I think it's either guy.
I think if Arch gets into this game and then ends up winning, Chris, there are going to be a lot of Longhorn fans that will be in the boisterous mindset about how wonderful and amazing it is. And frankly, it'd be kind of epic. Like if there's no world where Arch Manning plays in this game and Texas fans aren't going bonkers with excitement, because it either means that Quinn Ewers got hurt and Arch Manning is proving that he will in fact be a great starting quarterback if he goes out and beats Oklahoma, however close it ends up being, or Quinn Ewers and company have beaten Oklahoma so badly they don't want to risk injuring Quinn again, and Arch gets into the game. If he takes any number of snaps on Saturday, it's going to be a fun time for Texas fans.
Real quick, show of hands. Raise your hand if you're taking Oklahoma in the upset. All right, Jay Smith, Locked On Sooners.
Yeah.
He's the only one.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it'll be close.
Save the graphic, guy. We appreciate it, Jay.
Can you do a show of hands for Texas winning, please?
Wow. That's what I'm talking about.
And Brandon does the horns down, of course. All right. We've got plenty more games to get into. How weird this season has been. We're going to learn more about the SEC coming up this weekend. The SEC squad talking more ball next. Back to the squad in just a second, but first, today's episode presented by our friends over at FanDuel. And look, if you're a college fan, NFL fan, you can start your season with a big return over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. When you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets, and that's at FanDuel. And you can get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. If you've never used them before, what are you waiting for? Go check out our friends over at FanDuel. You can download the app, and you can go to FanDuel.com, and you can take advantage of some of the great offers they got going up there right now. Some of the big lines this weekend, Texas still sitting about a 14-point favorite over Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry game. Whichever way you're feeling on it, go check it out. You can find it at FanDuel on the app or over at FanDuel.com. And again, take advantage of that great $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet at FanDuel. One more segment here on the SEC squad, getting into the slate of games happening in week 7. And guys, it's interesting. We talk so much about OU and Texas. I mean, that spread is still sitting at about the Longhorns as a 2-touchdown favorite over at FanDuel. The one that's probably closest among all the SEC matchups, it is top 10 Ole Miss going to LSU, a place where Ole Miss has not won since 2008. When back in the day when Les Miles said opponents' dreams go to die in Death Valley. How do we feel about this? Because LSU has looked pretty good since they lost to USC in week 1. But Ole Miss, man, they had the lackluster, dreaded loss versus Kentucky 2 weeks ago. And then this past week, they go to South Carolina, and the defense played well. But the offense didn't look like what Jackson Dart and that crew was doing early in the season. Do we like, or what are we feeling here, Ole Miss and LSU?
Honestly,
I feel like every time we expect Lane Kiffin to take a step forward, he takes a step back, right? And I feel like this is, a chance for Ole Miss, even though against LSU, they're not the contender that we're used to seeing them be. You know, I still think that this is one of the biggest games in the SEC this weekend outside of Texas and Oklahoma. And I feel like LSU is going to win this game, right? Like I said, I mean, we've seen that consistently from, you know, Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin. Every time we think they're going to take the next step, every time we think they're going to be one of the best teams in the SEC, they falter. And I feel like it's going to be the same thing on Saturday. I think LSU gets the win.
I think the way that I keep looking at this game, and I'd be curious to hear who you guys would pick, is you've got a one-loss LSU, you've got a one-loss Ole Miss. Which head coach needs this victory more, Lane Kiffin or Brian Kelly? I don't think that I've decided as we're recording this show, because I think either fan base is going to have at least a significant subsection that will turn on their head coach when he loses this football game.
I think you're right. I think to me, the one that needs this most is Lane Kiffin, especially after losing at home to Kentucky. Jonathan said it perfectly. Every time Kiffin takes a step forward, he takes 2 or 3 steps back. Him and James Franklin are like the same dude. They're literally the Spider-Man meme when they look at each other, because they always falter in games that they probably should not falter in, or they can't get over the hump. For Brian Kelly, what helps him is the fact that Harold Perkins is no longer with the team. You know, when your best defender tears ACL.
Brian Kelly's making $10 million a year. Like they're not paying him $10 million to lose at home to Ole Miss. This is one that LSU fans look at every year and go, "Oh, Ole Miss, W." Like it's you can't lose to this team. You're a better program than Ole Miss.
I'll make the Brian Kelly case for sure, because to me, Brian Kelly has already pulled the, hey, here's my new defensive coordinator. I know this because it was Blake Baker. They took him from Missouri this past offseason. I don't know if that's 100% worked out according to Ole Miss fans yet. I don't know if they're over the moon about Baker yet. My point is, either way, from Brian Kelly's perspective, if you go to 4-2, now you're looking at Alabama still on your schedule. You got what's looking like an improved Texas A&M squad. Yeah, I know, make fun of the Missouri guy, but seriously, they're very much on the outside of the bubble, I would say, if they lose this game. I just think, yeah, seriously, Vanderbilt, I mean, like you guys have said, I mean, the SEC schedule, there's plenty of games they can lose. Oklahoma's still on the schedule. Arkansas is still on the schedule. So I don't know. I think it's every bit as much LSU. I think Lane Kiffin. I think LSU fans don't like Brian Kelly. He's a lower on the approval rating than Lane Kiffin is at Ole Miss. Let's put it that way.
How dare you omit the Florida Gators?
I can't list every.
When are they worthy of being included in any discussion right now, though? Like,
they play both teams.
That's crazy. Where we have to mention Vandy and don't mention Florida, man. We are like.
By the way, I want to go back to something that was said earlier on the show with regards to bottom dwellers in the conference. If there are truly none, what are we calling Mississippi State?
No, it's them right now. But the point being, I'll make you guys a bet right now. Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State beat somebody they're not supposed to beat before the season's over. This is how the SEC goes. This is the strength of the conference, that every year somebody beats somebody that they're not supposed to, and you know this is the reality of being.
Well, Mississippi State could indeed beat UMass. It'd be an upset, but I think they can take the Minutemen.
You know, I actually have a question, because we have Chris Gordy here for Locked On SEC. We have Spencer McLaughlin here for Locked On College Football and formerly Locked On Pac-12. And yeah, I mean, RIP to the Pac-12.
Always RIP.
Maybe are they dead? Might be the undertaking.
I mean, it's dead-ish.
But I will say, is the SEC now Pac-12ing themselves, where they just like they kind of just eat each other alive?
The old cannibalization. Yeah, that is something I'm intimately familiar with, and I think with the way the schedules line up through the second half of this season, that possibility is incredibly real. I think you're going to have a really good, or at least good 9-3 team that you look at and go, boy, if they just make that field goal, or if they convert this fourth down or get a stop here, they'd be 10-2 in the playoff, and maybe they could go in there and make some noise. I could see that being either LSU or Ole Miss, where LSU maybe looks back one day and says, boy, if we had just taken care of USC in the first week of the season, we'd be in the playoff right now. But instead, we lost to Ole Miss, and then we lost to Alabama, and it ended up being 9-3, and they get left out. I think at the top that is entirely possible. I do still think the SEC will get 4 teams into the playoff.
Well, let's real quick, guys, as we get into the rest of the slate here. Raise your hand. Are you taking LSU to beat Ole Miss? Raise your hand. Ooh, okay, all right. So we got 4. So 4-3 LSU over Ole Miss.
I can't go against my future head coach, Lane Kiffin.
Well, Lane Kiffin loses this one. I think he's going to be getting that off.
Future head
I
coach of
hope
Florida.
he loses. I don't want him playing in the playoff. I need him here by early signing day.
Hey,
Save the recruiting class.
11 a.m. Central from Tuscaloosa. It is 3-2 South Carolina, who only scored 3 points last week against Ole Miss, heading to Tuscaloosa, and Bama only a 21-point favorite. As much as I want to buy into guys, bounce back game, Bama gets itself right and all this, I can't just automatically say that when this defense is playing as poorly as they have the last couple of weeks. So, look, I think Bama wins, but I don't think it's a 50-3 type game.
Yeah, I think that Bama goes out there and blows them out. Honestly, it feels like this is that one for them to do it now. The biggest thing with them is the way that South Carolina's playing. I mean, the fact that Dylan Stewart's out there emptying the clip on Jackson Dart like he did. I'm like, bro, what are we doing? That's a complete clown show out there for Shane Beamer. I actually thought that Shane Beamer and his Beamer ball, in which I think he went for it on 4th down like 3 straight times and did not get it. I was like, okay, he may be on the right track. No, they're going back. They're regressing. They're regressing exactly in the spot I thought they would. And I think Alabama goes out there and beats them up. I think they really beat them up.
Locked on Gators host said Shane Beamer sucks. So
you want my proof he sucks? It's always my proof that he sucks. He is the only coach that's 0-2 against Billy Napier.
Okay, so with that being said, I feel like
Goes over,
that
guys. You can see it.
they're getting blasted in Tuscaloosa. This is going to be the game where, for the first time, Kalen DeBoer actually gets everything buttoned up before the team shows up.
Bama's not. I mean, they played 3 terrible quarters against USF. They played a terrible second half against Georgia. They played, we just keep.
You just kind of conveniently left out the first half against Georgia there, Gordy.
Well, but, hey, Spencer, they had to hold on for dear life. They were up 30-7, and they let them back in the game.
Yes, news alert. Georgia, good at football.
Well, news alert, that logo on the side of the helmet doesn't just automatically get you in the playoff every year because you're Bama. This
exactly.
Ain't Nick Saban's Bama is gone. This is a new Alabama that might be taking 3 losses this year. So get ready.
I don't think South Carolina
And with that,
has the people to take Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams out of the game. I think they'll struggle against them.
100%. I agree. That, and then you've got Tennessee coming up. They got the 3rd Saturday in October, right behind this. And then you got Missouri, then LSU. They had 3 straight games. It's going to be a challenge for them. And so they've got to figure out how to right the ship. And I think this is the one they do it.
We're ready for that challenge. No question about it. I can't wait.
Last time Bama went to Tennessee and to LSU, they lost. That was when Nick Saban was their coach. What do you think Kalen DeBum is going to do? John, give me what are you guys doing?
The shot.
Conference host.
The hatred. Oh, my goodness. Is that Chris Gordy, new host of Locked on Auburn over there?
That Kalen DeBoer thought he was going to come in this conference and just dominate. And so he just let it out right there. His true feelings.
He's a nice guy, but nice doesn't win you football games at freaking Bama. All right.
I can confirm it doesn't win you football games in Gainesville either.
Yeah, or Billy Napier. John, give me a quick thought. Why the hell are y'all playing at 1-5 UMass? What is that about?
I have absolutely no idea. I have a better question for you. Why is Warren McGurk Alumni Stadium UMass's football stadium? It's named after a guy who went to Boston College. Somebody explain that to me.
Wow.
Why do you know that?
If somebody has the answer,
on Wikipedia, that's why.
Look, I think it's a legitimate question to ask why UMass is still playing football.
Did UMass, did he coach there or something at some point? Was he?
He was their athletic director toward the end of his life. That is the answer.
Okay. Well, I get it. I mean,
Longhorns
play at GKR, which is named after a legendary Oklahoma player. So.
Name it after Marcus Camby, for God's sakes.
Well, I mean,
Marcus Canby Stadium. I would go to a football game there yesterday.
I'm flying up. Let's go. Let's go as a family.
Even after Andy Isabella.
They'll have to vacate the wins for paying players or something. Real quick, before we get out of here, we've got 3 more to touch on. Raise your hand. Everybody think Georgia takes care of Mississippi State, no problems? Yeah. I'll just say Mississippi State gave Texas trouble for a half before they got curb stomped. So we'll see.
Hang
But
the
Georgia,
banner.
There goes Gordy not acknowledging that football's two halves.
Yeah, I know. Gordy's just a 1/2 kind of guy.
He's a one half.
I'm just saying, play 4 quarters of football. Vandy at Kentucky, probably. The game of the week, right? Take Kentucky minus 14 at home. I don't trust Brock Vandagriff. I trust Diego Pavi. I don't think Kentucky maybe wins, but
Emotional letdown spot. Give me Kentucky to win and cover.
Yeah, that's where I'm at because of the exact same reason. When I saw that spread, I said, this is an absurd spread. There's no reason Kentucky should be a favorite like this. Go ahead and give me Kentucky. I hate it.
Taking Kentucky.
guys just aren't buying it. You're all
Give me
acting like
Vanderbilt. What the
Vandy is
heck?
a
I'm going to
fluke.
go against the grain. Give me the Commodores.
Vandy's not a fluke. They're a good team.
I agree. They are, but there's no reason Vegas should
Defense is
disrespect
real
them like that.
They might be.
That's an
It's probably
absurd
better than
spread.
Bama. You know what I mean? So
Jay will probably be right.
It's not even about it
defense is
being
better
a
than
fluke.
Bama. So I think Kentucky wins.
Kentucky is so defensively sound that I'm
They
like,
are.
okay, they're not going to have all the screw ups that Alabama had.
But what about their offense?
They're
It
not going to
sucks.
move the ball.
What is that?
Yeah.
You
They're
ever
going
got
to
points?
17-14. That's what they do. You know.
Arkansas won 3-0 last year, right? Or lost 3-0 last year. Why not? Why can't
right.
Kentucky?
Diego football.
Last game, guys, to save some time for Brandon here. It is 3-2 Florida at number 8 Tennessee. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but Florida won a game. Then Florida won another game. All that a win streak where I come from. Let's see if they can
Get
keep
on
this-
board the Dr. Pepper hype train for the Gators. Give me Tennessee to win the football game. Florida's not good.
Okay, Pat McAfee. Yeah, I think Florida. I think Florida keeps it close. I think Tennessee wins, but I think this is going to be a good game. You know, down to about 4 minutes left.
Yeah, I can't wait to sit at the sports book and watch this one. This is going to be a fun game to check out. I think that Florida covers, Tennessee wins.
Yeah, I think I'm going Tennessee here. I just think they're going to be too much for Florida. Florida's a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the Gators, and I think they're just ready for Napier to leave. Right, Brandon?
What a
That's a
time!
question
What a
real quick.
time where someone's confused that Florida's winning football games. What's going on in
got a question.
Gainesville?
Who's
How
going
are
to
we
be the
doing
starting
that?
quarterback in that game?
It's Graham Mertz, who leads the country in completion percentage, by the way, 77%.
Still?
Well, that's what matters.
By the way, one time Steve Spurrier said about Tennessee, you can't spell Citrus Bowl without UT. That's a great quote, but I'm
That
still
is a
taking
fantastic
Tennessee.
quote. So I looked. I was asking that specifically because when I look at the leader in passing yards for the team, it's Lagway. So I was trying to.
Take away Sam.
He had that like 450-yard game against Sanford.
Take away Sanford when Graham Mertz had a concussion.
I'm not crazy.
You're talking
Okay.
about different things.
Yeah, they're still playing them both a little bit, but Mertz is starting to kind of look. Mertz is playing really well.
It's been Mertz.
There's 1 yard off.
Mertz 2 drives. Lagway 1.
Hey, and UCF, by the way, had one of the best offenses in the country, or in the Big 12. I think they were leading the Big 12 in offense going into last week.
300
And
yards
also
rushing a game.
And Florida shut them down. We just saw Tennessee's offense get shut down at Arkansas. Ken,
Did Florida shut them down, or did Gus Malzahn roll over and die with KJ Jefferson not being able to throw a forward pass?
Yes.
maybe Josh
They're
Heupel.
playing 1903 football because they have to.
KJ Jefferson, is he like chopped liver?
Yeah,
he's
he sucks.
Well, have you noticed that Taylon Green has already won as many games as KJ Jefferson did last year?
Yeah, it's been a great story. And guys, I'm just worried Nico Yamaliava, all the hype of the offseason, got off to such a strong start. He was not good last week against Arkansas.
I have my theory about Nico, and it's not even a trash talking theory at all. It's a genuine theory that offense is just so unique, and it takes such a long time to actually understand. Like, that's why Hendon Hooker was so good his last year. He had so much experience with it. Last year, Joe Milton sucked because he's just not good at football. And then this year, Nico has just not been in the system long enough to have I think that offense, as college unique as it is, and as much as it really puts a hindrance on every single player when they get to the NFL level because they don't know how to play football. When you are good there, and when you get to know it, you're really good. But Nico's just not at that level yet. I will also say that offense got boxed by a horrible Florida Gators defense last year. So
I got a second theory to add to that. I think that adding the headset in to the players is probably going to hinder Nico's development as well. Because, again, I feel like Heupel is the quarterback. This is a la The Rams playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. As soon as that 15-second mark hit and the mic was off, the Patriots changed their entire defense, and Jared Goff was like this. I think Nico's going through that exact same thing in his early time. It's going to take him to next year before he can show up.
And nobody relies on pre-snap reads more than Josh Heupel in Tennessee.
Exactly.
So if you can muck that up, you're absolutely right, Jay.
Wait, raise your hand if you're taking the Gators this week. Brandon, the only one.
I picked them to lose against UCF, so I'm not even doing the bias thing. I'm just
fair point.
I'm 28 years old. I've seen Tennessee win a handful of times against the Florida Gators. I don't care where you're at, and I've seen Nico stink it up. And damn my brain, I'm picking Florida.
Well, as Jay Smith brought up last week, an SEC team has been upset every week of the college football season. Mark it down. One of these teams is going to lose this week. That is going to do it for this edition of the Locked On SEC Squad. Appreciate you guys for joining us. Shout out to FanDuel for making all this possible. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 of bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started.